So tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we
Good
talk,
afternoon, good afternoon.
people, make we
Good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to the Make We Talk program this afternoon. With us today we have Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Floyd Green, on the Make We Talk program. Mr. Holness, over to you, sir.
Yes, on Thursdays and Fridays, 1 to 2. You find me here on WZPP, WZOP radio as we talk money on this program from 1 to 2 Thursdays and Fridays. It's a delight for me to host this afternoon the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, the Honorable Floyd Green. He is serving in a great way, helping to ensure that we feed the people of not only Jamaica, but of the world. Minister Green, welcome. This afternoon, we're going to talk money. So I start with scripture. Ecclesiastic 10:19 says that food maketh a feast, wine maketh merry, but money answereth all things. As contrast to what folks says that money is the root of all evil, which is not really what the Bible says. It says the love of, the idolization of money. So we are talking money, and you are in the food business and the money business, right? Feeding people. So we're going to start off by just having you tell us a little bit about you. Where were you born? Your schooling. I know you're an attorney also, and what kind of life you had in business, that kind of thing for us, please.
Okay. So I am a South Vietnam. Vietnam through and through. I'm from South Central Junction, community called Dunderhill, if you're familiar with the area, that's closer to Savannah. We have did my high school at Monroe College before going off to university. So I spent 7 years at Monroe. Then went off to the University of the West Indies, Mona, here in Kingston. And did a degree in history with a minor in politics first. And then went to Barbados to study law and came back and got my legal education certificate at the Normal Manley Law School before starting to practice law. So started out in legal practice with went to a Charles company, and then decided to set up my own practice in St. Elizabeth down there in Black River, and then got involved in politics. So have been very involved in service, I would call it, and throughout the years from high school all the way up to university. I was involved in student government. In fact, while I was at Barbados, I became president of the student guild in Barbados, and that was a exciting time because as a non-national to become president of the school located there, it was, I guess, probably my most well-run before national politics election. So, yeah, been involved there, and when I came back to Jamaica from Barbados, started a group called Jamaica Association of Young Professionals, because we found that there was a significant challenge in relation to advocacy on behalf of young professionals in Jamaica. And did that for a little while, and then recognized that if you really want true change, you have to get directly involved in the process. So I was involved in G2K and then in representation of politics. So that's it in a nutshell. Clearly, in terms of the business aspects, I think first I really appreciated two things: becoming president of the guild and having to manage those affairs and that budget. You know, a really good indication of some aspects of business, which played out when I set up my own practice in Black River and having to employ your own people and money management and keeping that running. So, you know, that was interesting before getting involved directly in politics.
So you are a person who understands service is important. And, you know, I, having served myself in elected office, I tell folks who come to me that want to get involved that you can't just drop in. You have to have demonstrated that you're willing to have served. And from what you're telling me from a student, you were involved in organizing and supporting good work to build communities.
Yeah, I tell you, in high school, I actually got the award for the most involved student. So I guess it was kind of ingrained in me to be a part of these service clubs, whether it be Red Cross or Student Council or Science Club or, anything of the sort. I always felt that there was more than just garnering your education on this journey through school, and that actually significant development could come, not only personally but externally through service organizations.
I understand you also have a family, and give me a little bit of that background from Parents True now.
Yeah, so I have a wonderful son who is 10, but he is an adult. In fact, this year, if you're familiar with the Jamaican educational system, this year is a big year for him because he has his primary exit profile examinations, which are examinations that we use to determine placement in various high schools across the country. So, big year, trying to get him to settle down and focus on that. He's brilliant, and sometimes that's in and of itself the challenge because their brains operate so quickly. And Mary got married recently, so strong family setting. I grew up, very strong family. Mom and daddy was abroad for multiple years, is now back. But always had a fairly strong family structure, and very close to my mother's side, where the family who was with us in St. Elizabeth, the meals, and they have an extremely strong family structure. So family has always been important, and I believe it's fundamental, especially in any journey that you're on, having that support structure, but especially on this political journey. Family has been critical. It's really the place you go to for solace and for a sounding board who really keeps you grounded and humble and reminds you that no matter what you think you are in the world, you're really just father, husband, son.
It's great to have that base and that place of support for you to really grow from. So that's something else that I ask folks. What is your connection to not just the community, but your family? How are you working within that framework to help? Now you are the Minister of Agriculture, Mining, and Fisheries.
Yes.
So that's a huge portfolio. And would you tell us in terms of Jamaica's agricultural production, because that's the big one. We're going to talk about fisheries and mining also.
Mm-hmm.
But what percentage of Jamaica gross domestic product, the GDP of Jamaica, comes from agriculture by itself? Do you have?
Yeah, so we're about at 7% of the GDP. Agriculture is still the biggest employer. We have over 230,000 registered farmers. Vast majority of them are smallholder farmers operating on less than 1 hectare. So that's agriculture in a nutshell.
So you said
largely,
200,000 farmers, and how many people does that represent? And do you have actually a dollar amount of that? What that 77% represent in terms of the GDP?
I can give you that amount shortly.
Okay.
So the 200 about 30,000 farmers, which is again the vast majority of our population. Jamaica is a little less than 3 million people, about 3 million people. So while you have 230,000 farmers, when you look at those as farm families, we strongly represent over half of our population that are involved in agriculture directly. And for fisheries, we have about 26,000 registered fishers, smaller subsets, but when you put them together, again, definitely more than half of the population is involved in agriculture and fisheries.
Okay. Now, in terms of the mining industry, and we're going to come back to agriculture and talk more in depth about some specific things that you see on the horizon. But in terms of mining, how is that? What percentage of the growth? I know at one point in time, the bauxite mining industry was huge for Jamaica's economy. Where does that stand now? And what is happening within the mining industry? Not just
So,
fertilizer.
our mining sector still stands out as one of our main export and our main foreign exchange earners. It had gone down to about third on the list in terms of foreign exchange earnings. It was surpassed in time by tourism and remittances, actually. But I think we are now back up to second on the list in terms of foreign exchange earnings. And what has been happening is that we are seeing a strong rebound for the sector. We it's not definitely not back to the days of former glory where we used to have 4 or 5 plants in operation. Now we have 3 bauxite plants in operation, with Alpat being closed. It was bought by Gisco, and we're trying to get that back up and running. But now we have Benalco, Windalco, and the Discovery Bauxite in St. Anne. And Jamaica went through a tough time last year. They had a fire, but now they're on the rebound. And in fact, the last quarter we saw about 2.3% growth as a country, and that was largely on the back of a 167% growth in our bauxite sector, spurred on by in our mining sector, spurred on by bauxite mining and the recovery of Jamaica. So bauxite is still there, still moving forward, but where we're seeing tremendous opportunity and growth in mining is in what we call our industrial things like limestone. So we have seen a significant uptick in limestone exports from Jamaica. In fact, limestone exports are up over 100% over last year, with significant demand for aggregates in places like the United States, Cayman, Guyana, but also Jamaica has a high quality, high purity limestone. So we have been seeing demand for what we call pharmaceutical grade limestone that is being used in a number of things, including manufacture of toothpaste and things like antacids and things of that nature. So we are seeing a sort of diversification of mining now and opportunities for growth in other areas.
Minister, let me ask you that, and I know you may have someone around you, but since it's the money program, and we're talking money, I know you give me some fantastic percentage growth and increases, but I'd love to know what that dollar amount is represented for the people who understand the actual dollar impact. I think that would be a good thing for them to hear what these different sectors represent and those dollar amounts. In terms of mining, how many people are employed in the mining industry?
In the mining industry now, we have about, I would say about 3,200 people directly employed. In relation to indirect employment contractors, we have an additional about 7,000 people who are indirectly employed that would normally provide various mining services such as trucking, things of that nature. So we're looking at about 10,000 people across the mining sector now, presently. And yes, I will have them post some of those figures and give it before the end of the program.
Right. The other question that comes to mind that I've heard people talk about in terms of environmental impact. What are we doing to protect the environment as we look at these mining opportunities, understanding that we need to find a balance between the environmental impact and the economy and the jobs that it creates? Tell me what is in place for that. How is that handled?
Yeah, so that's critical. I think clearly as the country has evolved, we recognize more and more the fundamental importance of reducing the impact and trying to, as far as possible, ensure that there's some sustainability matrix employed in our mining sector. So we have over the years tightened up our regulations in relation to our environmental protections. I think that has been a significant area of focus, definitely over the last 7 years. And we have been taking greater steps to enforce when people go awry of the environmental regulations. From where I sit, part of what we have been impressing upon the bauxite companies, for example, is the need to follow the protocols in relation to the restoration of mined out lands. In fact, I have a team now looking at those standards and ensuring that those standards are strident enough so that there can be life after bauxite. Part of what we have to do is to repurpose those bauxite lands that have been mined and put them to other use. And that other use is largely agricultural use. And I think now that we're together as a ministry, agriculture and mining, and that has to be a fundamental focus of us. So we are looking at various programs, various crops that would be ideal to repurpose former mining bauxite lands. We are looking at things like ensuring that persons who have been relocated get their titles in good time, and we are working with the bauxite industry in general to look how they can reduce impact on the environment. What type of fuel are they using? What are the strategies that they're employing? How can we ensure that they're minimizing nuisance to people around them? So we do have that framework that we're working on. And part of what we're doing in relation to our industrial minerals and now a massive drive for the mining of something like limestone is to ensure that we have a policy framework that incorporates everything, as I've said: environmental protection, ensure that where you are taking from, you're also putting back. So where trees are removed, trees have to be planted elsewhere, things of that nature, so that we try and create a balance in the ecosystem. Because I think we all appreciate that a lot of the things that we use in our day-to-day life depend on the mining sector to create the primary products that then make these things. But ultimately, we have to also ensure that there's a balance of the ecosystem. So that is a priority focus of ours.
Now, staying in the mining sector, the fact is we basically don't go to all the way to the end for refining and turning bauxite into aluminum. Is there any plans or any thoughts as to how we might be able to get there, or is that too far a stretch for Jamaica to accomplish?
So I think, unfortunately, you said it correctly. In bauxite, we did make one jump up, but we didn't go to the full gamut. So we did move from just doing bauxite, raw bauxite mining, to producing aluminum. But, we would have loved and we would have retained more resources over the years if we had moved a bit further to produce aluminum. Clearly, some of the challenges that faced the sector as it emerged 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, was the cost of electricity and just ensuring that the business model would work in a way that would bring profitability. We're trying to ensure that as we look at new areas to mine, that our focus is on that value addition. And, I met with a team yesterday and saying part of what we need to do in looking to investors, working with investors and issuing licenses, is say to companies, for example, that are interested in limestone, how can you go a bit further instead of just being primary producers? Look at those value addition. Again, limestone has a wide array of uses, from paint to toothpaste to all sorts of things. And as such, we're trying to now headhunt investors locally and from across the world that would be willing to go into that value-added production. So we're trying to learn from some of the things that were done in bauxite and to see how we can do differently by getting more value addition. And clearly the value proposition has changed a bit. It's now much easier to enter into something like renewable energy systems. We have a lot of new policies in relation to wheeling and selling power back to the grid and things of that nature. So I think especially on the energy side, it is a lot more palatable to do manufacturing in Jamaica now. So we are on that push as it relates to mining. It may be a little too late for bauxite when you look at the reserves and the sort of investment that may be needed. But definitely in our new areas, we're looking forward to that.
Okay, so I take it then that the government is willing to help with giving concessions in terms of probably tax breaks and other things in order to get to where the value added portion of the production is put in place, because that would create much higher paying job jobs and really be a huge boost to the economy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But we do have an extensive framework around, well, we have had for years an extensive framework around bauxite. Um, what we are looking at is now how can we look at incentive regime around other minerals, and that's why we're actively looking to develop a new policy regarding that. But we have over the years developed now new initiatives around our special economic zone that does come with a slew of incentives. We do have specific agriculture related incentives, which I can speak about as well. So the government is willing to work with private investors, look at what they need to set up shop in Jamaica and facilitate that. Again, we did it tremendously in bauxite, and that's why at one point we had some of the main, not some of the main bauxite companies in the world operating here. We're looking to that in other industries, definitely, in relation to mining and industrial minerals mining, and definitely in relation to agriculture.
Jeffrey has a question.
Good afternoon, Minister Green. Jeffrey Tavares here.
Hi, how are you doing, Jeffrey?
I'm doing good, sir. Minister, are you aware of some fertilizers rather that was sent to Jamaica by Morocco? Majority of the people in St. Elizabeth and other surrounding areas, farmers, has not received it. Are you aware of that?
So, all right. So they have had fertilizer from Morocco over the years. We do have a program with Morocco of support, which we're very grateful of. Where as part of our MOU with Morocco and support the agricultural sector, one of the things that they indicated would happen is the distribution of fertilizer. And that has happened over the years, and persons from St. Elizabeth have gotten fertilizer. I think what people may be saying is that as a small country operates, they would have heard that fertilizer, a new batch of fertilizer has arrived, right? But we haven't started distribution of that as yet. So we are going through the process now in terms of it has already been cleared, and now we're looking to put in place a distribution framework. Clearly, our distribution normally takes the form of going through a number of different avenues, rather looking at specific crop lines as well, looking at specific organizations, so like our banana growers, our coconut growers organizations, looking at the JAS, and we normally distribute through those channels. So I can assure the farmers distribution hasn't started yet. Distribution will start shortly, and it's never enough for every single farmer to get, so it's very important that we look at some of the programs that we're running. So, for example, we do have programs that support Irish potato production, support onion production, and we try to tie them with some inputs because those have been identified as our priority crops. So farmers can touch base with RADA and they will get some support in short order. And let me just use the opportunity to really thank the government and the people of Morocco for continuing to support us in this regard. I did send my own set of condolences to them for the significant tragedy that they faced recently. But we're really grateful. They also support us on a program around soil health and doing more soil testing, and also on a program around cold storage for our agricultural sector.
Minister, we're going to be on a break in a few moments, but when we get back on the other side, so we'll take about a 5-6 minute break in a few moments. I would like for you to talk a little bit about the organic growth, which basically the world is looking to. How are we positioned? How is Jamaica positioning itself to tap into that market, because it's a huge market? And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about agriculture, Minister.
Okay.
When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk.
You're listening to WZOP 92.7.
Why do taxpayers have to pay for SSL's criminal operations, quote unquote? How are we being held accountable and not those governing that corrupt entity?
The government of Jamaica will not be in any way taking on any debt of any private institution that has failed. We're not going to bail out any private institution that has failed. We went through FinSAC and we are determined not to repeat that in any way, shape or form. But the public is also asking that this matter be thoroughly investigated, and the government made a commitment to thoroughly investigate the matter. It is one of those conundrums because in order for the matter to be thoroughly investigated, with the FID and with the appointment of a special investigator to deal with this matter, and with the regulatory authorities also supervising. The truth is that we need the staff of SSL to keep the computer systems up and running. We need the staff of SSL to maintain the records. It would be a far more expensive exercise if SSL were to close tomorrow and the staff goes home, and then the investigators on their own having to try and piece together the puzzle. So I think the Minister of Finance found himself in this quandary where, having known my very strong position that we're not bailing out any company, having now to see to it that the infrastructure to facilitate the investigation, which the public would want to see come to some conclusion, that we ended up having to pay for, but only a short time, the maintenance of the staff. None of this is going to the principals of SSL or indeed to anyone who had invested in SSL. This is primarily just to keep the operation there, which is necessary to facilitate the investigation. I just wanted to emphasize that. So my point is, I feel just like how everyone feels in the public, that the principals of SSL or people who invest there, the public is not going to pay for that. But what the public would want to see is that we are able to track and trace and recover the funds that have been defrauded and have it returned to the people who were defrauded of their funds. And that is the cost of actually getting that done.
As your Prime Minister, I can't make it be all about power. As your Prime Minister, it has to be about fulfilling your needs. That's what it has to be about. As your Prime Minister, I can't make it be all about power. As your Prime Minister, it has to be about fulfilling your needs. That's what it has to be about.
Life just seems so tough. Make we talk, my people.
Welcome back to the Make We Talk program here in WZPP and WZOP. We're speaking to Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, Mr. Hon.Floyd Green.
Honorable Floyd Green, we were on the break talking about organic production of agriculture and how that is a big deal in the world today. People are seeking to go organic. Where does Jamaica stand in that field, and how is the government helping to grow that?
Yeah, so we have embarked on a massive drive to try and encourage more of our farmers to get involved in organic farming. Clearly, we see this as a tremendous opportunity for us, especially with the drive across the world from our organic everything, fruits, vegetables. So one thing that we have to do is that we develop our organic farming policy. We clearly have been working with our standards bureau to ensure that we have an organic certification program, so that if somebody says that they're involved in organic farming, what does that mean? How are they certified? Do we have a framework in which they can be certified? And that we have been doing through our Bureau of Standards Jamaica Limited and have had that developed. So now we have, I would say, we have the framework for a truly organic industry. What we're trying to do now is work with our farmers and work with our private sector in terms of developing more products that can help drive organic farming. So currently we do have a number of trial plots on the way looking at organic type fertilizers, organic things that will be used to control pests, things of that nature. Trying to put them through the trial process so that we can say to our farmers that we can utilize these products and, in building out our productivity model. So it is a direction of the government, and we have seen a number of our farmers embarking on that, and it's something that we are encouraging.
So I read something online, and by the way, I looked at some photographs of you. You talk about you having a 10-year-old son. Looks like you're only about 20-something years old yourself.
Is it
Minister? Elizabeth water.
Is it St. Elizabeth water?
I'm Jamaican food.
I'm the St. Elizabeth Food Minister.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So I immigrated from Jamaica before you were born, probably, in 1975. I've stayed in touch, certainly, living here, becoming a citizen, getting involved in life here, in the political arena also. But I keep in touch because a good part of the inspiration for me to have been involved in the civic affairs of America, and I actually served in college as a freshman senator here at Broward College while I was there.
Okay.
So
excellent.
And in Jamaica, I was a part of the 4-H club, a Boy Scout, and all them kind of stuff.
Oh, good.
So service is important, but in my keeping in touch, I know of Jamaica having Project Land Lease. I think that was under Michael Manley, and then it became Margaret 21. And it is purported that during the Project Land Lease program with the, I think, GMAC farmers, the farmers market that they had, where farmers could take their goods, the products and get it sold, that the agricultural production was the largest ever. I don't know where we are with that. How are we looking with that? And also, I understand you crafted Jamaica's new face of food strategy. Would you talk a little bit more about those things for us, please?
No problem. So we actually hit our largest production numbers in 2021, and that's amazing to contemplate when you reflect on the fact that we were still in the middle of a COVID pandemic. And one of the things is that during 2020, when the pandemic hit, and we saw significant fallout in our market because we're so heavily dependent on tourism and our agriculture sector does supply into the tourism market. The government had to take some deliberate steps to intervene, and we crafted a sort of buyback program where we decided to provide a market for our farmers. We got some good support from the Ministry of Finance, over $1 billion. And we went out there and bought produce and established farmers markets across the length and breadth of Jamaica to encourage our farmers to keep planting. So in 2021, we hit our highest level of production, which was 700,000 tons domestic production, and that was surpassed in 2022, where for the first time we hit 800,000 tons of domestic production. Unfortunately, we are seeing susceptibility of our agricultural sector to the weather and to the ravages of the weather. So we are in decline this year, and that's largely because since October 2022 up to March 2023, not only have we been in drought, but we saw our driest period ever recorded in the history of our country. That has had a control of our farmers. The vast majority of our farmers are still smallholder farmers with rain-fed water systems. And as such, our new face of strategies approach built on 4 pillars to try and treat some of the fundamental challenges that our agriculture and fisheries sector face. The first pillar is about food security. In COVID-19 brought into sharp focus the question, can we feed ourselves? And if so, with what? And as such, we have been building out our food security matrix in terms of what does that look like? If the world were to shut down again, what would be our starches, what would be our proteins, our vegetable lines? Clearly, we have developed sufficiency in some things, good on our fruit and vegetables. Our poultry production has a level of self-sufficiency, but we still have to treat with the feed issue. Our pig production, we do produce all the pork meat that we consume. So there are some areas, and we are building out other areas under the new face of food strategy, focusing on things like our sweet potato or Irish potato or breadfruit, to again form that food security matrix. The other areas, agribusiness, I think we recognize that we have to move our farmers from just being primary producers to ensure that we're doing value added. And we're seeing some good initiatives, especially on our sauces. We've seen tremendous export in sauces. I think we make now about $20 million United States dollars each year from the exportation of sauces. The other area is climate smart technologies. With what is happening with the changing climate, access to water has become even more critical. So we are and have embarked on our largest ever investment in irrigation. We're spending now, with the help of the UK, about $10 billion, building out irrigation networks. We're looking to put another 1,500 hectares of land on the irrigated water supply by the end of next year. And we hope to break ground for our largest irrigation project ever next year, which will cost about $200 million United States dollars, and will allow us to irrigate the plains of Pedro all the way down to the top in the South Field. And the final area in terms of the strategy of the face is export expansion. We are looking to build out our production of crops that are really well in the export market. Our number one domestic export is yam. We make about $35 million US dollars each year from yam, followed by our number one process export is ackee, canned ackee, which is about the same $30 million US dollars that we make each year. But there's tremendous demand for mangoes, tremendous demand for, again, ackee. We're just scratching the surface. So we're going to be focused on building that out. And also we have tremendous focus on our small ruminants and our fisheries sector. So that's the face of food strategy in a nutshell. But it's really about not only that 4 priority pillars, but also recrafting how we view agriculture, sharing the stories so that people recognize that agriculture is big business.
Well, I bought some yellow yam last night.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm contributing to that $30 million worth of stuff.
So was it yellow yam, curry chicken, and dumpling, Mr. Holness?
But I made sure at first I looked to see where it was planted.
Okay,
It was
St. Elizabeth.
it was growing.
More than likely,
It was grown in Jamaica. It says Jamaica. It didn't say we're in Jamaica. But what was really something else? The grocery store I went to basically caters to immigrants, Caribbean and Hispanic people. They have a large array of products coming out of Costa Rica. How can we do more to put more of those things on the shelves here in terms of facilitating the supply chain and getting into the wholesalers who bring the products in?
Yeah, so I think what you hear and what we are working on now is driving production. What we have to find a way to do is to generate more investment in agriculture. Clearly, we have to move to put in larger plots of land and also infusing the technology so that we're doing more greenhouse protected type agriculture where you're not necessarily doing larger plots of land, but you're able to increase your productivity. We have access to most of the markets now, right? But we're just not at the production numbers that can ensure that we have the sufficiency of supply. So we have done good jobs to ensure that we have access to America, Canada, and the United Kingdom. And we are exporting to all of those areas, but also we're scratching the surface. So our drive now is how can we get more investment into our agricultural sector? How can we double triple our production of, let's say, yams. So, for example, we have a strategy now looking at not just helping to support the farmers in our traditional yam growing areas, but also looking at non-traditional areas and putting, yam plots there, and also looking at different varieties like our minister cultivation. That's a larger what Costa Rica did. And again, research and development is critical if we're going to ensure that we increase our productivity and develop, resistant varieties, especially to what's happening with drought. So we're going to be spending and have been spending over the last 2 years significant money on building back our research capacity. We were among the best in the world early out in our journey in relation to agricultural research, but unfortunately, we didn't put significant resources over the years. So we just spent about $1 billion Jamaican dollars on a borders redevelopment program, and we just got approval to embark on a $5 billion Jamaican dollars project over the next 3 to 4 years to really help us build our major research center, to really help us build back the research. What Costa Rica has done, and it's a good approach. Costa Rica spends a lot of time focusing on research and training, so developing varieties that were ideal for their climate, that would drive production, and also bringing in investment. So we're taking some of that model, looking at what they did with their Earth University. In fact, we have a partnership with them where they're sending some of our children over to them to study at the Earth University, to come back to do some work in agriculture. So it's about research, it's about getting investment. Part of that means tapping into our diaspora and having people who are willing to invest, come back to invest in agriculture. And it's also about, working with our financial institutions to provide better rates for those who want to invest in agriculture to be able to have access to capital. So, it's part of the strategy. Ultimately, we know that the demand, that we've done a lot of the demand studies. And again, we're in a number of areas like among those, we're just scratching the surface.
So, Minister, my youngest child is at the University of Ohio, and he told me he's going to do a business degree in agriculture, and I says, "What are you going to do? Go plant ganja?" Of course, he laughed. He said, "No, agriculture is real big business, Dad." I said, "I understand that." So he's there now, and certainly, I told him I was going to be with you on the program today. He'd love to look more at what Jamaica is doing, and maybe when he's completed his studies, he can come.
Excellent.
His grandfather actually was a sizable farmer. He was doing pineapple at one point in time in St. Elizabeth.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, so agriculture is
his mother's side. Yeah,
big business. We have companies locally who have done well in agriculture. The CARICOM Farm of the Year, we just had our Caribbean Week of Agriculture. And thankfully, both the CARICOM Farm of the Year and the CARICOM Youth Farm of the Year were Jamaicans. So the CARICOM Farm of the Year actually Tradewinds, which is the company that does True Juice, which, when people farm, people don't appreciate that they're farmers, They have just added a move from being our biggest citrus farmers to having the biggest juice company in the country, and farmer, she made the point that, she doesn't get dirty. Her farm is about greenhouse and utilizing modern technology to produce leafy vegetables and things of that nature. So, agriculture is big business and also exciting business.
So Earth University you mentioned in Costa Rica, I was told it's one of the foremost agricultural universities in the world, and that there are a lot of ministers of agriculture from Africa who actually attended Earth University in Costa Rica. And folks should know that Costa Rica actually has a sizable Jamaican population. In fact, not the current vice president, but the previous one, her grandmother was born in Kingston. Marcus Garvey actually worked in agriculture in Costa Rica, and I was told he has a house still standing. I did a sister port program with Puerto Limon and Port Everglades a few years ago, and 4 of the 5 people who represented Costa Rica had Jamaican heritage. So we've traveled a large distance. Now, Minister, you talk about investment in agriculture, which is precisely what I want us to get to. Talk to us about any direct opportunities, what the contact information is, where folks can go if they wanted to put some money and some investment in agriculture in Jamaica. How do they get there?
Yes, so there are tremendous opportunities. So we have outlined some crops that we've done the significant demand studies on that we believe can be done at great value here in Jamaica, and we've identified a number of different areas, including yam production, including sweet potato production, including orchard lines. We're looking to set up 1,000 acres of breadfruit, 1,000 acres of mango, 1,000 acres of ackee. Again, tremendous value, tremendous demand. We have seen tremendous demand and value for our small ruminant sector of goats, and also for aquaculture, fish farming. And as such, we have all that information in an entity called the Agro Invest Corporation, the AIC, and you can find them online, and you can reach out to them if you are interested. And I would just call some crops that we've identified, but I mean, there's tremendous demand for dasheen, cocoa. We can provide you with our export figures and show you what we're doing well in, and also what we're just scratching the surface. So we might be doing well in, for example, let's say dasheen exports, but we're only producing 1% or less than 1% of the total demand. Something like mangoes, East Indian and Julie mangoes, we're barely producing 10 to 20% of the total demand. So we have those figures that we can help guide you, the agri help you. And additionally, if you're looking for land to do investment, you can go through the Agro Invest Corporation. So the Agro Invest Corporation is in charge of our agro parks and our agroeconomic zones, so we can help you identify land. We already have land on offer, so we've earmarked, for example, we have a agro park that's focusing on mangoes in Clarendon, and you could reach out to the AIC and they could tell you that you could be able to lease 50 acres. We do them in 50-acre plots. This is what it would cost. This is what it would cost you. We have already done the planting material. We have already put in the infrastructure, roadways and irrigation. So, what we're trying to do more and more of is develop these kind of turnkey solutions for agriculture, where all you really have to do is come with the investment, willing to employ people with the expertise, and you could have your agricultural enterprise up and running. So the Agro Invest Corporation is the answer. You can type in Agro Invest and they should come up and you can reach out to them directly. We are looking to have a sort of investment forum next year where we will again present some of these ideas and the value propositions, and we will definitely use your channel to get out some of the information to get people to come down. All the countries that we speak about that are doing well in agriculture, outside of research and training, it has come through significant investment, private sector investment. It's not government. What government does is create a platform. So already, if you're getting involved in agriculture, we already have a regime where all the associated implements that you're going to be using can be brought in free from duty. It's called our production incentive regime. Again, you can reach out to the Ministry of Agriculture directly. You can go on our website and get information about that. We still have a duty concession for equipment involved in agriculture, for vehicles that are utilized in agriculture. So we do have an investment framework that is very competitive for all the best of the region. And when you pair that with a special economic zone, where you can register your company and get special tax exemptions and things like company's tax, it is a great time to invest in agriculture. So the Agro Invest Corporation, you can find them online. Ministry, you can find our website also. Ministry of Agriculture, you can find our website also online. And you can reach out to us directly and we provide you with some information.
Okay. Minister, in terms of the amount of money that someone might, do you have any kind of incremental amount that someone might be putting in mind to put in? What size plots would you think would be productive to start if someone is not already in tune with that? And I like the idea that you're saying you've built a framework, you really put the infrastructure in place, so it's easy. And in terms of assistance in business planning? Because a lot of folks might, yeah, I'd love to do something like that, but listen, I've never grown anything before. I have a few dollars I could invest. Is there how would they maneuver through that system?
It really varies tremendously depending on the crop that you're doing, and again, the size of your outlay. But we do have the specifics. So we can say, for example, we have said in our agri path for mangoes that we're looking for investors in 50-acre plots, right? And clearly we can say to you that that sort of investment can tell you how much money in Jamaica it will cost to lay out that in terms of planting that out. And when we start to return on investment, something like a orchard investment, clearly it's a longer term investment. We won't start to see returns before 3, 4, 5 years. But again, once you've done the preliminary work and you have somebody who deals with the pruning of your trees, it's almost like a sure investment, you know. And then once it starts, it's clearly yearly returns. That's very different from if you're doing something like our small ruminant sector. Again, we can tell you what's the cost. Clearly, we're now encouraging people to move away from open field grazing for the goats and to build goat houses that can have security systems in place, that you really bring the feed to the goat and you have quicker turnaround times that we can tell you how much that will cost. So the breakdown is there. We can provide the breakdown for you depending on what you're interested in, what you're, and then there clearly our cash crops are quick turnover. What we're seeing more and more is that even as you do, for example, orchard type crops, you can do intercropping using some of our shorter turnaround crops. And again, we can tell you not only what the investment will look like, what should be your cost of production, what you're going to look like in terms of your return on your investment. So depending on what area you're interested in, we can give you a breakdown. And one of the entities that is really good at that for your listeners is called RADA, the Rural Agricultural Development Authority. Again, they have a presence online, and they're very quick to give you the cost of production breakdown for almost everything we plant here in Jamaica and what the returns will look like. So between the Agri-Invest Corporation and RADA, you know, yeah. So I would say in terms of when you're thinking about agricultural investment, clearly, firstly, you know, if you're thinking something open field, do you have the land? And knowing that most people in the diaspora already have land that's underutilized, right? One of the things with agriculture is that it can be scaled to your budget, right? So if you say you want to start with $1 million and you're looking to plant tomatoes, right, then you can use that as a determining factor in terms of how big would your outlay be, right, and things of that nature. So it largely depends, but we do have some predicative numbers that will say to you that if you're looking at this size of return, this is the minimum that you need. And clearly in some things, like our orchard crops, unless you're dealing with a certain scale, you may not get the returns that you're looking for, so we can tell you that.
Okay. All right. So Agro Invest Corporation is one place to go.
Definitely.
You say RADA, RADA. That's another place to go. In terms of a direct phone contact, is there anywhere you can give us some place someone can go to through the telephone? I mean, most people do online, but sometimes you might need some explanation or some better understanding. Is there a place for that? Do we have a number?
So now to our Agri-Invest Corporation, and their number is 876-923-0086. That's 876-923-0086. And you can find them online at agroinvest.gov.jm, and that's the Agri-Invest Corporation, who can not only help you in relation to designing business plans, looking at some of the business options, but can point you in other areas. And RADA is rada.gov.jm.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Minister. This has been really fruitful, I think. Hopefully we can have some of our listeners call, go online, invest some money in growing some yam and breadfruit and ackee.
Yes.
And raise some goat. But we didn't even talk about fisheries. I'm sure they can invest in that also.
Yes.
But our time is up, Minister. we're going to have to come back another time. Thank you so much for sharing this hour with us, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you very much, Minister, for coming on to the Make We Talk program, sir. Don't be a stranger anymore.
All right, no problem. We're good.
Okay, thanks. That's Minister Floyd Green of Agriculture. This is where we should so long from here.
For their contribution to this station.
South Florida Mikey's Car Wash has relocated to 21st Street and Oakland Park Boulevard. That's 2090 West Oakland Park Boulevard in Oakland Park. And the new name is Affordable Car Wash, $10 Car Wash. We also do appointments. For more information, 954-816-2993. 954-816-2993 for appointments. Affordable